What's poppin', everybody? Happy Black Friday for all of those who buy into that sales craziness. Anyway, I am Kerri Lewis, your co-host for our show for no particular reason. To my right is the incredible Yankov, who loves to show up every Friday and dance and sing and make fools of ourselves with me. And then today we have Woo! Somebody I'm so excited about. My beautiful, amazing soul sister, Miss Lanita Mitchell-Blackwell, here to impart some of her glorious wisdom and, most important, beautiful smile and love onto the community. So thank y'all for being here today.
Thank you so much for having me. This has been such a pleasure to finally get on the show. Woo!
All right. Yes. We've been waiting on that day when you join us. So very exciting.
It is. It is. And so for the audience, Lanita, why don't you share a little bit about how you show up in service and love to the world? I'd be super excited to hear about that.
Absolutely. So, I am Lanita Mitchell Blackwell. I'm an intuitive business coach as well as an attorney, author, and speaker. And I have had the pleasure of bringing all of my skills, gifts, and talents to the world in service. And that service is teaching people how to live a life full of peace, joy, and fulfillment. That is the ultimate successful life. And I tell people all the time, I'm not saying that you can't make money because you absolutely do. That's how we eat. I'm not saying that you shouldn't want things for yourself, big house, car, and all the rest of that. That's great. I'm just saying that that cannot and should not define who you are, and how you serve, as so eloquently stated by Paul Selig. And so that is what I do. And I do that with a variety of strategies, with coaching as well as my retreat services and my speaking engagements, and being here, of course, on your wonderful show.
Yeah, I love it so much. So, with that being said, Lanita, Yanko and I called this show for no particular reason because truly we love to see the unfolding of experiencing conversation in its natural flow of life. So, I'm curious, is there something that's on your heart that you want to either discuss or share or impart wisdom with us about?
Actually, yes, I have my annual retreat coming up in April called the Prioritize and Empower You Retreat. And the idea came based on my life. One of the things that I have learned, and I've shared with both of you individually, is that whenever we're creating offerings, we're our first client. Right. And it's an understanding that we are always in the process of learning, developing, growing. And that is the place from which we share our love and our expertise, right? So that's the genuineness, that's the transparency, that's the realness of it. And so the retreat is a call to action for women to put themselves first. And that is absolutely counter to everything that we are raised to do as women. And I don't care your religion, I don't care your geography, I don't care your color, your race, your creed. We all were raised that if we take care of everybody and everything else first, that then we would reap the rewards and that would be enough to sustain us. And I come from a family of service driven people. And that is how I was raised as well. And I'm not going to lie to y'all, those first years, the first half of my life, it served me very well. I did everything I ever wanted to do. I became a CPA, an attorney, a magazine publisher, a best-selling author, an international speaker. I have helped other people achieve those things in their lives as well. And I have a beautiful family. But what people did not see, because those are the things that are forward facing, right? That everybody says, oh, you're just so awesome and amazing. And I became what I call an applauseaholic. And people laugh when I use that term. But I literally, when I was in seminary, went through the 12 steps from Alcoholics Anonymous to come out of that. And I revisit that often. And so the process that I went through to, to disentangle my self-esteem from my self-worth and all of these accolades and achievements, etc., it took 2 years. And y'all know how we are as a society. You tell somebody 2 years, their eyes glaze over. They're not trying to hear that. They're not trying to take 2 years to do anything. And so this retreat process streamlines that to 90 days. And so it's a 3-day retreat, April 11th through the 14th, where I take you through the strategies and the self-awareness exercises of how we got here to this stressed out but overachieving little bunny. And then thereafter, it's a 12-week coaching program where we learn how to use these techniques in real life. Because when we go on these retreats, we go on these little vacations, we're like, oh, this was exactly what I needed. Now I'm ready to go back to the world. And then we're dropped right back into what we left. But we don't necessarily have the tools for us to continue on in the process so that we stay in that flow that we got on that weekend. And so that's that 12 weeks. So that's what's on my heart today. My retreat opens up today and I'm so excited.
I'm so excited. Okay, so I want to jump in a couple things because obviously I want to have a dialogue around what you shared about, and here's the thing. I don't even think it's just women. I think it's men too. We have all been conditioned to believe that if we show up in service for others, we'll reap the rewards at the back end. And I mean, we look at it with men, who are, let's take care of the house and home. I'll be the breadwinner. I'll be the decision maker and get stuck in that too. But the listening audience, I've known Lanita for quite some time. And for anybody who knows me, I really do show up with love for myself. And hopefully that transpires to you all. And I fundamentally stand by the work that Lanita does because she shows up and does the work every day too. She doesn't claim to have it all figured out. She and I both live in the messy middle of the human experience. And that is the gift I think all three of us give to the world is, yes, we're learning and growing and expanding, but as we continue to do that, we want to be of service to others to help them. And so if this is something that, interests you, I encourage you to get Lanita's information, which we can share on this whatever thingy if you share it with Yanko and get more insight. But, Lanita, how do you get people, women, men, anybody to recognize that they are people pleasing? Because I think that you and I, as people who've been through the wars, right? We have our own stories, Yanko as well, of serious suffering that kind of got us to that place where, we gotta take care of house and home before we go out there. A lot of people just think everything's happening the way it's supposed to, and they're just going to keep going on and they're going to dig in, and somehow, some way it's going to be better. So what would you say to help people at least get curious about being more aware of their conditioning and give themselves permission to consider something different?
Well, thank you, Kerri. That is absolutely true. How do you get somebody there? Well, you don't. Like you said, we've known one another a while, and Yanko as well. We've had beautiful, deep conversations, and for each of us, we had to get to the place where our feet touched the bottom of the pool. We had to be in a place where we realized that something was not right and something needed to change. We just were not sure what to do or how to do it and who to engage to help us, because the people that we're surrounded with are kind of doing the same things that we are, right? And so that's the first thing, that we have to realize that this is not something that we press upon someone. That has to come from within. For me, it was my child finding me on the floor passed out from exhaustion because I had run myself into the ground, and I was too tired to even put my 6-year-old child to bed. She literally tucked me in on the floor. And so even then, though, I knew something needed to change. I just wasn't sure what and how. And it wasn't until I went through a series of brutal surgeries due to stage 4 endometriosis and was laid out for months in my recovery that I was determined then to seek the help that I needed. And so the first thing is realizing that something needs to change, and then the second is embracing that you're willing to do the work. So
Mm.
yeah, so and that's the thing. So this is not a sales job for on my part or any of our parts. This is a, you have to realize that something is up and that something needs to change about it. And that's the truth.
So, so much good stuff. One, I love, you know, what I love about you, Lanita, is you keep it real, and you didn't say you're going to go on this retreat and I have this program, and then when you're going to get back, everything's going to be yummy and you're going to have figured out. And even after 3 months, like, you have this 90-day program, but it's continued work every day. I just jumped off a call with a client right before this show, and they're like, "Oh my God, there's so many layers." And I'm like, "Yeah, baby, buckle up, because that onion ain't going nowhere anytime quick."
That's right.
But
Because it
it's
is
true
work.
though. It's true because like a lot of the times people try to escape from like suffering to get to a better place where they feel fulfilled, and there's always this tendency to like look for the grass on the other side that it's more greener or whatever you're looking, and it's all like made up story in your mind that never happens. And so in reality it's happening here and now. Like if you can't adapt in the now and deal with whatever it's happening and do the change, everything else is just I don't know, it's just hallucination or dreaming about things. Like Lanita said, you're thinking, oh, I'm just gonna push through, I'm gonna get to the other end because I'm tough, like I'm gonna, because that's how I'm taught. Like I'm just gonna, like, when something challenge comes in, I'm just gonna keep pushing and pushing and pushing until I get out of energy and realize, like, what am I doing? Like, why am I swimming against the current? So I love it.
I I do have a question, and it stems from my understanding, Lanita. You said the first half of your life you achieved all of this stuff, right? And I'm curious, did it feel yummy for you? Like, while you were doing all this, did it feel really good, or was there a part of you that always kind of felt like, ugh? Or like, I just want to understand a little bit, because, and I'll tell you why I asked the question after
Yeah.
you answer.
Yeah, so I think that we can all honestly say that it is not a good feeling. It is not. It is not a good feeling. And I will embrace your sound. Ugh. See, you were all dainty with it, Kerri, because that's who you are. You are. Ugh. No, no, no. It's a guttural. It comes from the womb, baby. Ugh.
Yeah, I know, right? It's like, ugh, like, you just can't. Yeah. But then that's the thing. So I think, for anybody who's like, well, how do I know if I could benefit from what Lanita offers, or Gail offers, or Yanko offers, or any of the hundreds of thousands of people who are showing up differently and in service? And that's just what Lanita and Yanko and I want you guys to understand. If it feels ugh, if you're like, oh my God, I have to go to work and I gotta grind and I gotta hustle, and then I gotta and your hair's on fire, and you have toilet paper hanging from your high heel as you're running out the bathroom, that's when it's time to pause. It's time to be still, and just give yourself permission to at least be curious. Here's the thing. Lanita's not saying, oh, show up and be like, yep, I'm the person who can. No, she's saying, I'm going to offer you this place of respite, of comfort, of compassion, and to be able to hopefully nurture your soul. And fundamentally, guys, if you're not open to receiving it, nothing any of us could ever do would be able to give that to you. However, if you are, and then it is in the experience of it, and that's why it's important that you recognize it's something that has to be felt. And in that experience, you then, right, open up to possibilities. Well, maybe if I can grasp this in 3 days, well, what if I can achieve that throughout the rhythm of my day to day? And you just keep slowly staying curious. And when you meet resistance, you honor that, but you stay true to the path that you promised yourself.
Absolutely. And I love the fact that you said that none of us are offering a pie in the sky solution.
Nope.
This is ongoing. This is forevermore, because we're talking about a lifetime of indoctrination, right? This is what we were taught. This is who we were surrounded with. This is how we have made our bread and butter so we can provide for ourselves and our families. And I want to say, I'm not saying that your work was bad. I
Yeah.
regret nothing, right? I regret not a thing, because it allowed me to stand where I am. And I am not saying that you're not going to go back and continue to do some of the things that you do, because some of the things that you do are absolutely aligned with your purpose and your calling, right? What I'm saying is not everything. What I'm saying is you have to put you first, and if some things have to come off, they do. And I'm saying that there are tools that you can use so that you don't wind up back in the spot that had you questioning your whole life. That's where I'm coming from.
Yes, I love that. Sorry, I'm typing a private chat to Yanko asking if he has the information so we could put it on the screen. If not, I was gonna do it. And this is real time, real talk, guys. This is how I keep it 100. I love what you said about pie in the sky. Because Yanko and I, before you jumped on, Lanita, we were talking and we both had like beautiful experiences this morning, because when we tap in, tune in, like we always get these insights and yummy stuff. But what I would say, guys, is yesterday, Thanksgiving, man, oh man, was it just another opportunity for me to continue to learn how to nurture myself and learn my own habits, behaviors, and conditions that keep me from really allowing myself to know peace. And so I look at every experience I go through, and yeah, in it, it felt icky, y'all. I'm keeping it real. Yesterday, man, I spent 3 hours looking like a hot mess express, like the puffy eyes, boogers coming out my nose. Nana's like, I don't know what to do with my baby right now. But you know what I did? I was like, what can I do to nurture myself? And I poured into cooking food for Nana's siblings, and I poured into, and in that, I'm like, that's right. I just fell back into an old pattern of behavior. It's cool, Kerri. You don't have to beat yourself up. You don't have to spend months in guilt or shame. You just be like, I remember, thanks for the lesson. And then you show up in joy. And that's really the work, guys. Like Lanita and myself and Yanko, we all just have a gift of being able to bear witness to our pattern of behavior in the moment. And because we're able to bear witness to it, we're aware. We then have a choice, because we're not operating from just this condition. We're like, oh, that's right. Okay, cool. Thanks. That doesn't serve me. I'm gonna do this. This feels better. And that's what Lanita is offering you and experiencing at the retreat. And that's what her program teaches you. That's what Yanko does. And I know that's what I do. But it's messy and it does feel icky sometimes. So just always knowing that we do this because we want to be the soft place for you to land in those messy moments of right? Yeah.
And I love what you said about the peace, right? Because I think a lot of people think that peace and happiness are synonymous, and they are not, right? Because happiness is an externally driven emotion. Whereas peace is an internally determined state. You're
Ooh.
right. Right. So you're happy when something outside of you happens. And that may or may not have anything to do with you. And so you're basically emotionally hijacked. Someone else is driving your car and determining how you're feeling. Whereas peace, because that's an internally determined state, you can have peace even when you are in the worst possible spot. And that is determined by your abilities to generate thankfulness, gratitude, and kindness toward yourself.
Ooh, ooh, ooh. Yeah, preach, my beautiful friend. You right. You right.
I feel like we're so online with everything that's going on. Like we keep saying the same thing. Like you're saying the same thing, you're saying the same thing, I'm saying the same thing. It's all the same thing.
It
Yeah.
is. And yet here's the thing, guys. We present in different avatars in different language because I can tell you because each one of you have served me in beautiful ways and different experiences. We Our delivery is different because how people need to hear it and receive it to feel it needs to be different because there's 8 billion people on the world, which is why this whole idea of like fear or oh my god, I need everything from me makes no sense because when you do show up and you're like, oh, Lanita, I got somebody for you, girl, because I know me and my trailer truck trash talking, stanky, icky, gritty self might offend their senses. I would rather be able to serve a person in a really loving way, knowing I'm not meant to serve them, than
Yes.
to try to show up and potentially cause harm because that's what we could do if we're not showing up with the lens of just selflessness and service, and fundamentally going back to what Lanita said, when you are kind, when you're compassionate, when you choose that inner peace for yourself regardless of external circumstances, your lens is always going to be selflessness, because if you know that peace, why would you want anything less for anybody else?
Correct. Because if someone else has less than peace, they are constantly trying to pull you into their storm. And it's not because they are hateful people, it's
Yep.
because they truly are trying to get to a peaceful state. It's like the metaphor of the light and the dark, whereas the dark is always chasing the light, not to extinguish it, but because it wants to become it.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so good. I love that so much. So you alluded to needing surgeries. I mean, you
Mhm.
were passed out on the floor, and even that wasn't the catalyst for you to take the time to do the work. And yet, you shared with the listening audience, you still wear all of these hats. So how Lanita, or what would you say to the listening audience to encourage them to be able to still wear those hats, whatever ones make them feel yummy, whatever ones they look at and they're like, oh my God, this feels just so good. Like every part of me feels good about it, while honoring that piece, while honoring that internal nurturing and support that we're all talking about.
Yeah, so it's a process, but most of the people who are listening, y'all like steps. So here's the first step: you come first every day. So when you get up in the morning, even if you only have 5 minutes, but I would say if you can do 30 minutes, great. But if you can only take 5 minutes for you to set the intention for your day, you do that. Do your breathing, do your meditation, do your prayers, stretch your body. And if you have some time, work out before the house wakes up, before you're running around behind the children, before you're answering client emails, before you're trying to get your honeyboo together, before all of those things happen, you take care of you first. Because once you do that, then the intention is set for the day. You have prioritized yourself. See, we want other people to prioritize us, but they are doing what they see us do, which is not.
Ooh,
they are watching us not prioritize ourselves. So they're like, okay, well that's what you want, and I'm just giving you what you want. So that's the first thing. Excuse me. The second thing is, whenever I engage in a product or service launch, any new business venture, something else has to roll off. So instead of having 10 things on my plate, I know that's what it looks like, but there is a rollout and it's timed. So it looks like things are always happening. That is not the case. I am never doing more than two things at a time, not anymore, because it's overwhelming. Number one. Number two, it pulls me back in that same energy that had me all sick and laid up. And number three, I don't have time to spend with my family. My daughter is a senior in high school. This morning, y'all, I'm just being honest with you. I woke up and I realized that in August, when she has her first day of school, that will be the first time in 13 years, because, pre-K, that she will not be coming home to me. And I had to take time and really process that. But because it happened at the top of my day, I was able to give myself the loving and the nurturing and support that I needed, so that, yes, there is sadness, but I am joyful that I am raising an independent young lady who is prepared to go off to college without her mom being a helicopter. I might have to buzz the field a couple of times though, y'all. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, I feel that. I feel when my daughter got her driver's license, I was like, "Whoosah, whoosah!" That was a thing. But yeah,
I love it, and I know some parents could be that way, because like I know some people that are like, modern cars can have the tracking systems in place. They can, get alerts. Oh, he's speeding up, like, oh, let me see, where are they on the map? All these other things, So you're not wrong about that.
that is so. But something that you said that I love, particularly because I work with people in active addiction, and I'm never going to tell them to quit that addiction, because all we're doing is let's nosedive into suffering. Now, I do want to preface, if you're like physically at risk, I'm not working with you, simply because you need more care than I can offer you. But then afterwards, the reality is I don't want people to suffer. And so what Lanita suggests, and I 100% concur and have subscribed to my whole self, is we think we have to eat the whole staircase. Guys, you need one step. Even if you don't have 5 minutes, I don't care if you have 30 seconds. When you wake up, the first 30 seconds, you sit in gratitude. Thank you so much for one thing, and then set an intention. What Lanita said is hands down true. We have a reticulating activating system. It's in the front of our brain, prefrontal cortex, right? It is going to seek to find what you tell it to seek and find. And most people are wish-washy. We wake up, and to Lanita's point, our hair's on fire. We're so busy focused on everybody else. We're like burning at the seams, right? So what are we teaching our brain to seek? We're teaching our brain to seek more chaos. But if you simply suspend that behavior, and try this for a week, guys, but 30 seconds, and say, okay, what is one feeling I want to cultivate today? And so I'll tell you mine. My intentions every day are twofold. My intention is to show up as love for myself and all others in this world, and to laugh hilariously often. That's it. Simplistic. And what am I teaching my brain to do? It is teaching me to engage in loving connection, co-creation. And I have to tell you, even if I end up laughing at myself, I laugh all the time, because I fed my brain that direction. So yes, 5 minutes, 30 minutes, I would venture to say the three of us have cultivated pretty long. Like for me, my practice in the morning is beyond 30 minutes. And yet it just started with 30 seconds. That 30 seconds was the catalyst to a minute, was the catalyst to 5, was the catalyst to 10 and beyond.
That's
Yeah.
right. Yeah. I was gonna say when I first started, I'll use anytime. Like anytime, like say I'm waiting on an appointment to get in and I'm outside the office, I'm sitting, then close my eyes, go within.
That's right.
I am somewhere, maybe I'm in the train going downtown Chicago. I have 20, 30 minutes, same thing. Close my eyes, go within. Anytime. But this was a habit that I kind of learned how to do, that I apply everything. Like, when you're first starting to learn how to read, you might start by reading the signs on the road because you're going, you're looking for opportunities to practice. So life gives you opportunities. So anytime you look for opportunities, you have those opportunities. And then the journey starts with the first step. So you got to make the first step and the journey starts.
That's right. That's
That's
exactly
Lao
right.
Tzu. Lao Tzu, baby, the journey of 1,000 miles starts with the first step. You real about that. Yeah. And, I think to make it more palatable, something that Lanita said, because starting within can feel obscure for some people. What do you mean by that? Like, what do you mean? Breath. What if you're on the train going to and from work and all you do is, I'm going to count my breath cycle for 5, right? You breathe in, you breathe out. That's starting to go within, because in doing that, right, you're learning a new habit, to what Yanko said, but it's also starting to teach yourself about yourself. How fast does it take for my mind to wander into, oh, squirrel? Which, by the way, man, guys, my mind loves squirrels. Or how fast, right? But and that's the thing, is once you are aware, right? Learning yourself makes you aware, right? So I was talking to somebody who was like, their person makes them feel guilty. I'm like, their person don't make you feel guilty. That's a
You're,
lie. Like, the only person who can make you feel guilty is who?
you.
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 Yep. Exactly. And this is something that some people don't understand nowadays. When I say it, they say your happiness does not depend on me.
Yep.
Like, you know what I mean? Your guiltiness does not depend on me. This is something you're being programmed to do all by yourself. So, but the news are, you learn how to do that so you can unlearn how to do it. It's
Yes.
it's it's not a one-way thing. So it's not like a done deal. So yeah, if
Yeah.
you get, yeah.
Well, it's so funny because the encounter that unfolded yesterday, which was such a gift to me, really, thank you, love. I call God love, but y'all can call it whatever you want, for the lesson. The individual that it unfolded with said to me, well, you certainly have found peace quite quickly, and went on to share their truth. And I said, hell yeah. And I hope you do too. Because I don't want to sit in the crap. I want that for myself. And more importantly, if all we have is this present moment, why would I want to sit in the past? Like, truthfully, I've learned what I needed to learn. Now I just release it and let it go. But it's a practice. And to Lanita's point, guys, our brain is like a blank PC or Apple computer, depending on what you like. You pull it out of the factory, it has nothing. It's blank, nothing. We have been fed programs, behaviors, conditions by society, by cultural norms, by family expectations, by schooling, right? Not bad or good. It's just the way it is, right? We don't judge it. But when you fundamentally understand that, you then allow yourself to examine that and decide whether what you've been fed, right? The program that's running, does it serve you? And if it doesn't, get rid of it. I just downloaded Parallels for Mac so I can go live on TikTok, as Yanko would say. I love it. But guess what? If it didn't work, you know what I would have done? I would have clicked the drag, put it in the trash, and said delete. and would have been no worse for having gone through that experience. And that's what we want for you guys.
It's interesting that you're saying that, Kerri, because one of the things that I tell people when we're talking about this experience with life, um, we have to also learn how to embrace silence. When you were talking about the frontal lobe engagement, so there is also the piece that is in charge of communication right back here. And if you don't give it a chance to rest, then you're always going to be spewing information that someone else is feeding into you because it has no chance to stop, reset, and then remember what you were placed here to be to send out as far as your message. And so, Yanko, when you were talking about it began quietly, just on the train and taking those moments between appointments, and it was just a few cycles of breath, then do that. And then build up to 30 minutes, build up to a day, build up to a silence retreat. I try to do one at least once a year with the Art of Living. And yes, it is painful to put your phone down, to disconnect from technology for 3 to 4 days. But after that time, there is a feeling of rest and restorativeness that encompass your whole body and allows you to go back into the world raring to go. But that happens when all of you can rest. So this is beyond just sleep. This is stillness. This is anchoring into the moment. This is vibrating at the highest frequency that your experience up to this point will allow. And as you grow in this, because remember, we are still going through. You don't stop going through until you take that last breath. Your vibration continues to rise, and you're able to show up as love, as peace, as joy, and fulfilled.
And yes to all that. And so here's the thing is I would never have attracted the gift of Yanko or Lanita in my life if my energetic vibration didn't mirror theirs. And this is why fundamentally, I'm going to continue to encourage you guys to look into Lanita's retreat or some retreat, anything. Myself, yeah, I don't care. So that way you can have somebody who's operating from that, because to Lanita's point, right? We are vibration and we operate within the vibration we most often live in. And until you shift up into those different vibrations, the reality is the people around you, not good or bad, they're operating from the same conditions. They're operating from the same habit of guilt. They're operating from the same habit of putting others first. They're operating from the same, leaning into behaviors that cause suffering rather than allow them to experience peace. And that's why all three of us show up in the world and speak and do our shows and offer these, services so that we can be that energy until you start to recognize you attract that energy for yourself. And it doesn't take that long, guys. It really truly doesn't. Yes, it's work always to understand and break patterns of behavior, but you'll start to see things just start feeling better. You'll start to meet people who lift you up rather than tear you down. And that's why it's important to continue to do this work, because I wouldn't know the Yankos of the world. I wouldn't know Lanitas. I wouldn't know the Gail Crafts. I wouldn't know, the beautiful group of people who I know. If I needed to yesterday, I could have called and said, yo, I'm Hot Mess Express. I need some of your love. And they wouldn't have been like, oh, girl, you did wrong. They'd have been like, oh, I love you. And that's what we want for you guys.
I love it. That's awesome. It's so real.
It's so real, right? Because right now, if you're surrounded by people who operate like you, what are you going to do? Ooh, why'd you do that?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. See, you instead of, oh, what do you think you could have learned from that? Or what is it? And that's the gift of curiosity, guys. And that's why I always say, before you have awareness, you've got to have curiosity. Suspend what you think you know. Right? Lanita's a lawyer, and I don't know what kind of law she does, but we think about a jury. We ask jurors, don't come in here with preconceived notions of the color of somebody's skin or their social economical background. Now, not everybody's great at doing that. I'm going to own that. But we do attempt to put that into perspective, because when you come from an unbiased perspective, you open yourself up for learning. Right? But if you've already decided that this is the way it's going to be for you, you're always going to experience that, because that's what you believe to be true. But
right.
if you allow yourself to suspend what you think you know, well, then you've just opened up your world to limitless possibilities.
I want to add something to what you're saying. If you're a complete beginner and you haven't done anything like that, once you start wandering in that way, you might experience something that might put you right back at where you are. You might
Yeah.
feel that fear coming up and saying, well, maybe I'm doing this wrong. Like, maybe this is not what I'm supposed to do, or maybe I'm meant to be that way, or whatever. That is just how the mind works. And I've seen that happen, and I experienced that myself. Like, when I'm changing from one thing to another thing, or like, say, if I start a if I have a new interest, I'm gonna surround my like-minded people that have the same interest, so I can learn and vibrate with that interest, and get to know it more. Like, if I'm getting a new hobby or something else, so it's kind of the same way. You're already surrounded by, like what Lanita was saying, the people around you. You know, um, they're just confirming your reality. Like, oh, you want to be that way? Yeah, good job, you did it again. Like, you had a fight with somebody, good job, all right. And then you're like, yeah, okay, maybe that's how it's supposed to be. And then you start looking for people or solutions and other things, and then that might come up in your mind, can come in, step in, and says, no, 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 or shame you, or like you shame yourself, and you have that internal talk, and you start going like, no, 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 I don't deserve that, or because I've been bad so long, or this and that and this and that. So just suspend all of that. It's like building a new habit. Look towards the thing and see, like, let's see where this goes. That's what I usually say to myself. Like, let's see where this goes. This is kind of interesting, but like, let's see. Maybe there'll be something else.
The best example I ever heard about our thinking mind um, is the ego is a thief pretending to be the cop who's trying to catch a thief. And what do I mean by that? Right? So if we go in and have this, so we're growing, right?
Yeah.
You get off the retreat with Lanita and you're feeling good and you got all these tools and you haven't quite started the program yet, but and then you go into your household and your kid does this and you pop off same way you did before you went on your retreat, right? The ego is going to be like, see, I told you that retreat was a joke. Who you think you are trying to go change your life? But if you believe what Lanita and Yanko and myself is saying, that's when you're like, oh, but that's not true.
Right.
I'm just learning.
Right.
Okay, what made me pop off? Oh, I was on a flight from where I went. I didn't eat. My kid, was grouchy. And that's why it's super important to really remember it's a process, it's learning. And the best way that the only thing you can do for yourself as you step into this journey, besides surround yourself with loving people who do the work themselves, compassion and grace for yourself. Grace, man, will carry you to the promised land of peace, but it will not happen if you're like, I'm crap, I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy of love, and all the things that I'm sure each one of us have said to ourselves in some type of iteration at one point or another in our life.
It's funny that you that you compare the ego to a cop. So I compare the ego to an unsupervised child, and I talked about that in my not this past book, but the book before it, Not Down, Set Straight. I said your ego is a child left at home alone. They draw on your walls. They run around naked. They don't do anything they're supposed to do with eating food that's good for them, going to school, doing homework. They have to have supervision. And so, unless or until you get to the place where you engage with what I call your aggregate intelligence, so that's all of you, that's your intellectual, that's your spiritual, your emotional. And then when all that comes together, it creates a super intelligence or the aggregate, which manages the ego. And so I want everyone to understand that we're not saying the ego is a bad guy. The ego is not a bad guy. It allows us to experience the world on this plane as it is. What we're saying is the ego cannot run around unchecked. The
Yep.
ego has to have a parent. It has to have a partner, somebody to hold his hand, to remind us that there is so much more to this than what our eyes see. Our heart is seeing. We have to allow our heart to lead.
Yeah, all I'm gonna add to that is that people are mistaking their egos for themselves, and the
Yes.
ego is just an instrument. That's not who you are. It's a personality that you created, or everybody created for you, and that's how they see you, and that's how you adapted it and decided that you are. So the ego is not you. Don't mistake it for yourself. Don't let it run wild. And the same goes as the body. The body is the instrument that helps you experience life.
Yes. Yes.
So think about it like this, guys. The ego is your overthinking mind, right? So, for example, when I get off this call, I could just sit here and just start ruminating on this conversation and make up total stories about how it unfolded. Was it good? Did we have an audience? Or I could be like, what feels good? I think I'm gonna drink a glass of water. And then what feels good? And it's what Lanita's suggesting is do what feels good. And if you catch yourself overthinking, because we all do, right? When I'm not above overthinking once in a while. But the awareness piece is when you catch yourself in overthinking, I take 3 full deep breaths because I've just regulated my parasympathetic nervous system, right? Full expansive breaths. And then I take action. And this is where I fundamentally believe that discipline, i.e., what I say is devotion to self, is paramount in being able to really live and express a fully expressed and peaceful life. Because if you're sitting down doing nothing but thinking, you're an ego. You're in your overthinking mind. But if you're like, oh, I'm stuck in thinking, let's go for a walk. Or, oh, I'm stuck in thinking, I'm going to go to the gym, right? Yeah, you're just going to be like, no, you don't want to go to the gym, but you've trained yourself to go to the gym anyway. As soon as you leave the gym, you're like, damn, I feel better. So just understand that your ego is just going to be your overthinking state. And so action and discipline, or as I like to say, devotion to self, can really help you start breaking the habit of overthinking.
Yes. Agreed. Absolutely. We got to stop overthinking and start overfeeling.
Well, you know what's so funny? I just got off this call, and the person I was talking to was like, God, I have so much to think about. And I said, no, you don't. You don't
No,
have nothing. You
No,
know
you
what you
don't.
need to do?
no.
I was like, you need to get off this call and do something that feels so good for you, whether it's paint, dance, journal, like go for a walk. Think about it, guys. The greatest creative beings, Mozart, right? Like all of these people, where did they put all of that into what felt good for them? Oh, I'm
Yes.
anxious. I'm going to make some symphony. Or, Oh, I feel stressed out about, you know what I did, guys? I swear. I was in my stinking thinking about yesterday for a half a second. I said, "Oh, what can I do?" I'm gonna show you because that's just how I roll. Hang on. Life is a funny thing. I sang and I released it.
Yeah.
So just go do something that feels good. That's why my friends get random singing texts because I'm like, oh, I gotta do something. I'm gonna sing to somebody.
We love those rando songs though, Kerri. Don't ever stop.
I know. Listen, you never know what you're gonna get when you're in the world of Kerri Lewis. Because I don't know what I'm gonna give you, so that's even better. You know, and I think that speaks to this work too. And I think it's important to highlight for the audience. When you learn to trust your soul, your heart, when you're heart led, you don't have to have a plan. You don't have to have this structured expectation. Sure, I know I'm going to work with clients. I may know that I'm going to play around with some content creation, but I trust that the joy in which I exist in will guide me to wherever I need to be. And that's true peace because you don't have to know, because you know yourself so well that you know you can't be led astray, that
Yes.
whatever you unfold into is meant. And that's why I fundamentally truly am so grateful for my Thanksgiving yesterday, and it was one of the best I've ever had because it just continues to allow me to trust in myself and go with the flow and learn what brings me joy and what no longer serves me.
Yeah. Yeah.
With a couple minutes left, Miss Lenita, is there any imparting wisdom or thoughts or anything you want to share with the listening audience?
Absolutely. I want to just remind everyone, particularly during this time of year, that the focus is not to live a perfect life, but an excellent one. And the difference between the two is that perfect, by definition, is meeting someone else's standards. And you're always going to fall short because they're not your own. And that is what creates the anxiety, the stress, the cortisol levels to just go through the roof. And we are talking about the exact opposite of that, a life of grace. And that's where the excellent life comes in. You set your own standard, and that automatically has grace built in with the understanding that your goals, the things you're striving for, that they can change. You can move the goalposts depending on what's going on in your life. And I want to say that now before we go into, y'all, December 31st is coming. What have you achieved this year? And the new year with the vision board parties and all the rest of it, that energy that makes you feel like I've done nothing, it hijacks you. And it really depletes your creativity and the self-love that we have been talking about this whole show. I just want you to remember to focus on living an excellent life, not perfect. Okay?
We are what we repeatedly do. Therefore, excellence is not an act, but a habit.
Mm.
Aristotle, baby. That is above my meditation. My meditation chair. And you know, the other thing is daring greatly, and it's by Theodore Roosevelt, and what he basically says is it's not about perfection. Your face is going to be marred with blood, sweat, and tears. And it's the person that strives valiantly, who errs and makes mistakes and falls into the poop storm all the time, but gets up and keeps trucking forward in their own experience through grace and compassion. That is the person that gets to claim internal peace at all times, which is what all of us want you to do. Lastly, I would say, guys, if you're even remotely curious, check out Lenita's information. I vehemently stand by her, and you know, am honored that to support her work because you know, she is one of those people daring greatly in her own life, and in doing so, helping others to dare greatly too. So,
That's
Thank
right. And I want to thank our audience for sticking around and hanging with us on the show. We put up. It's the other side. There you go. Scan the barcode to find more information about the retreat. And thanks for stopping by. It was wonderful hanging with you guys. As always, send us any email, any request, comment, like, share, describe, whatever you feel like inspired to do. We're open to it.
And next week, if I'm not mistaken, it's episode 40.
Yes. Yes. Wow.
Congratulations.
Yeah, darling. Awesome. Until next time, guys, give yourself grace, and I hope you experience a lot of laughter in your day.